Good morning, boys. Okay, today we're going to continue to look at the idea of externalities, and in particular today we're looking at what government can do to help solve the market failure that is caused by those externalities. So in the notes you'll find on slide 18 this little graph here showing how government uses taxation to reduce the negative externalities that are caused by cigarette smoking. Basically what they do is place an indirect tax on cigarettes. Now that indirect tax is paid to government by the producer of the cigarettes. Of course the consumer pays for it indirectly, but it's the producer that pays it to government. So because the producer is having to pay a tax for every unit of cigarettes that they produce, then the supply curve shifts to the left. The vertical distance between the two curves that you can see here is the amount per unit of the tax. So is this effective in achieving the government's goals? Does it stop people smoking? Well, yes, it does. As the supply curve shifts to the left here, we can see the equilibrium price has risen from P1 up to P2, and the quantity of cigarettes has fallen from Q1 across to Q2 here. So that's got to be a good thing. Fewer people are smoking, which means that fewer people are suffering from those externalities. We're not having to pay as much in healthcare for people who get lung cancer or any of the other illnesses caused by smoking, so that's beneficial to society. But its effectiveness is a little bit limited because, as we know with a good like cigarettes, it has a pretty inelastic demand curve, a steep demand curve that you can see here. So although we have a large increase in the price, the decrease in the quantity consumed is actually not as big as we would really want it to be. On the positive side, the producer is paying that tax to government. So the government would get, if we can calculate the amount of tax by looking at the equilibrium quantity, Q2 in this case, and multiplying it by the per unit value of the tax. So the government gets all of that tax income and it can use that to fund things like anti-smoking campaigns and so on. So it is effective to a degree. Right, now the other way that the government can try to reduce consumption of demerit goods like cigarettes, and in so doing reduce the negative externalities associated with them, is to work on demand. And one way that they can do that is put rules and regulations in place. So if there were no rules about who could buy cigarettes, we might be at a market equilibrium up here at P1 with Q1, a high quantity of people consuming cigarettes. If the government then imposes an age restriction on cigarettes, saying, right, you have to be 16 years old to buy them, then that's going to shift the demand curve to the left. Once we take all of those under 16s out of the market, there are fewer people willing and able to buy cigarettes at any price. So our equilibrium moves down here. The price has fallen, but the equilibrium quantity has fallen, and this time it's fallen by a larger amount than it did when we just changed supply. So again, that has achieved the government's purpose to some extent. We've reduced the number of people smoking. And the important thing with this one is that it hasn't cost the government much to do it. They've simply changed the law, and with fewer people now in the market, the price and quantity have come down. A little task for you to do here on slide 22. Have a think about these other laws or restrictions that the government puts in place and think, well, what is the externality, the negative externality that the government is trying to minimise in each case? Right, you can have a think about that and do that one. Make sure, please, boys, that you've got for today notes all the way through to slide 23. Good stuff, boys. Thank you. See you tomorrow.